What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with another fantastic episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. So to answer the question for this episode, no, I did not see Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. as I went there last week. But apparently, I did catch a cold, which is why my voice sounds absolutely terrible. And my nose is stuffy, but we are still trekking on. Now, I didn't see Donald Trump in Washington, D.C., but let me tell you, I tried very hard to see his motorcade. As on Tuesday night, Donald Trump was giving his sort of State of the Union / not State of the Union / Democrats have little paddles in their hands sort of speech. But now to get to this speech, Donald Trump had to go from the White House to the Capitol building, which would mean that he would have to drive by somewhere, right? And if we were standing in the correct spot, then more than likely we would see the motorcade pass by, meaning that I would see Donald Trump in a motorcade, and that would have been awesome. So we get this all set up. My wife and I go out to dinner, and we also meet up with her cousin and her, dang it. So we get this all planned out. After dinner, my wife and I, along with two of her cousins who both live in DC and go to school in DC, take us to this spot on the side of the road. And the road is completely blocked off. It's incredible how intense it is down there. There were police cars. There was red lights flashing everywhere. This was, according to my wife's cousin, this was the spot where Donald Trump was supposed to drive down. Every single time that he's seen this, he drives down this road. So he had to do it, right? Well, I got confused because a huge Docket fan was writing me on Snapchat saying, "Oh, Donald Trump just entered the building. Did you see him drive by?" And I thought, we're standing right here. I didn't see a motorcade. No one else saw a motorcade. What happened? Well, just like a lot of things, the left decided to ruin it for all of us. As according to Nick Sorter on X, Antifa protesters tried to stop Trump's motorcade, so the Secret Service decided to send a decoy motorcade, and Trump and the real motorcade took an alternative route. So we didn't even see the decoy motorcade, but Trump somehow weaved around the crowd and got in safely, which I'm glad that he was safe, but it would have been a lot better for the podcast if I had a video of Donald Trump's motorcade going to the Capitol. The road, as I already said, that we were standing in front of was completely empty, and I believe that we heard a Secret Service agent yell at someone for crossing the street. You don't see that every day. DC is usually rustling and bustling with a whole lot of people, and all of a sudden the street is just blocked off. No one can get through, and down at the Capitol there are so many cop cars and police cars. It's just incredible to see. And there was also a very different feeling listening to Donald Trump do a speech when you're only blocks away from the Capitol where he's actually speaking. Now, the only famous / infamous person that I really saw during my excursion to Washington, D.C. was Adam Schiff, who made his way onto the Senate floor to cry and complain about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Sadly, I couldn't get a picture of this because in both the Senate and the House chambers, you weren't allowed to bring your phone. But trust me, I did see him. I would not lie to you. Now, the reason I wanted to go to DC for so long was because of the history that enriches every single corner of the district. And it wasn't just the history from 1776 and onward. It was also the recent history as well. The first day we were in Washington, D.C., we went to Lafayette Square, where the May 29th riot took place, where leftists tried to tear down the Andrew Jackson statue and also tried to burn down St. John's Church. This is where I recreated the iconic Donald Trump Bible photo in front of St. John's Church. Sadly, for this picture, I didn't have a Bible, and I'm not sure if I'm in the right spot, but it was still fun to do. Also on this same day, I saw the IRS building and I just had to make this video. Check it out. Taxation is theft. The next day was probably one of my favorite days of our trip, as we went to a place called the People's House, which had an actual replica of the Oval Office. How crazy is that? There's the resolution desk that I'm sitting in front of. There's me chilling behind the desk, which sadly I couldn't put my feet up on the desk. I had a great idea for a picture, but I asked the kind security guard and he said, no, don't put your feet on it. I was disappointed, but it's still a great and fun photo. I had a lot of fun in that fake Oval Office. And besides that nice security guard, my wife and I were alone, and there sat two chairs. The two chairs that Zelensky and Donald Trump were sitting in during the infamous debate between the two men. And so what does one do in a situation like this? Well, he recreates that very iconic moment.
You don't have the cards at all. You don't have the cards and you're leading us into World War III. I know, Mr. President. I know. Have you even said thank you?
Now, recreating history in Washington, D.C. was one of my favorite things to do. I also did the I'm not a crook speech in front of a presidential podium.
And I welcome these sorts of investigations because the people need to know that the president is not a crook. I'm not a crook.
And I was going to do something at the Pentagon, but they seemed to be a little bit more strict and there was more people there, and I felt uncomfortable. Now, all of these videos that I made in Washington, D.C. are available on Facebook, Instagram, and also TikTok. That's right, after years of claiming that TikTok was bad and a Chinese-run spy program, I'm on TikTok. I took the bait. I am now on there with the new name, DOK TOK. So make sure to go check it out and make sure that you leave a follow on DOK TOK. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Like I said before, Washington, D.C. is dripping with history, from the present and also in the past. Going into the White House, you think, wow, every single president of the United States since John Adams has lived in this building. That is insane. You go into the Capitol building and look up at the dome and realize it has been there since the Civil War, as Abraham Lincoln continued the construction of the dome to build morale for the Union troops. Then you see all the statues and the paintings that are in the rotunda, which tell the story of our great country. You even see the exact place where Donald Trump stood to do his inaugural address. The tour guide said that that wasn't the right spot, but I knew it was, and he was wrong. I also went to Ford's Theater, the exact place where Abraham Lincoln was shot. And they still have the gun on display. Look at how tiny this thing is. This little gun right here changed American history for all of us. After he was shot, Abraham Lincoln was taken to the Peterson House, where he succumbed to his injuries. It's incredible to stand in the same exact room where Abe Lincoln took his last breath, and to also see the pillow where he was laying his head on that still has his blood on it. It is a sad part of history, but it is still something that we need to remember to this day. That's why at Ford's Theater, the presidential box has remained the same American flags, the same George Washington picture in the front. And even though Abraham Lincoln literally died there, they still do plays in that theater. They have pressed on and continued to provide entertainment for millions of Americans. And that's the important thing about history. We have to make sure that we remember different things before it fades away and we forget about it. Like, for example, our founding documents. The Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the United States, over time have all began to fade. When these documents do fade away, who is going to tell the future generations about our story? Who's going to tell these different generations about these different documents that we have had in our country and what they actually mean? The bedrock of our foundation of our country. The simple answer is us. There's a reason that we build different monuments in one central area of the United States. And it is to remember the past and the legacy of those different people. This is why Washington's monument scrapes the sky. And at its time, it was the tallest building in the world because the builders wanted us to remember what George Washington was to this country. He was the founder. He was the stable hand that led us through the Revolutionary War. We honor Abraham Lincoln for his strong hand during the American Civil War and deciding that we finally need to follow in the footsteps of our founding documents and that all men are created equal. We honor the men and women that fought in the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and even the Vietnam War, because their sacrifice is what makes us free today. This is why we remember all of these people. They are the cornerstone of our country. They are the bedrock that built this great, incredible nation. And they should be remembered in the future, even though some of these people may have had their flaws. And that's what makes our country so great. You don't have to be a perfect person to make the world a better place. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. Once again, I apologize for my voice. But until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.